I want to come back to antiangiogenic therapy because I'm going to take advantage of this global portfolio here of people that we have. And so, Ian, can you tell us a little bit about the ramucirumab trials? We've talked and alluded to the ramucirumab trials and what they showed and what kind of patient population that they enrolled.
Yeah, so the two pivotal studies for ramucirumab, the first study is a REGARD study where there were 355 patients randomized to ramucirumab or placebo. So this is a single agent ramucirumab. And these are patients who actually, they don't actually have to have a doublet first line. They can have either platinum or fluoropyrimidine. So therefore, only 75% of the patients actually have the doublet first line. And then they were randomized in a 2-to-1 fashion, and it showed a significant survival benefit in favor of ramucirumab. As I mentioned before, certainly with ramucirumab on its own, the safety profile is very favorable, almost the same as placebo. The second study, which is Rainbow, which we already heard quite a bit about, which is a larger study, again conducted globally, where paclitaxel was the control arm, or paclitaxel plus placebo is the control arm, and then the experimental arm is paclitaxel plus ramucirumab. And again, it has shown a significant survival benefit in overall survival, progression-free survival, and response rate. And I think really based on these two studies, we're able to conclude, and I think majority of the world actually accept that paclitaxel ramucirumab has become a standard of care. And this, of course, is in contrast to some of the data we've seen with bevacizumab, which a lot of us are aware of the first-line AVASCAR study, which is using in first line of cisplatin plus fluoropyrimidine with or without bevacizumab, which did not improve overall survival, although there was an improvement in response rate and progression-free survival. But perhaps the second also big randomized study of bevacizumab, which was recently published by my colleague David Cunningham in Lancet Oncology, is in the perioperative setting of using ECX perioperatively with or without bevacizumab. And yet again, in that very large study, which is close to 1,100 patients randomized, and there was no significant benefits of adding bevacizumab to chemotherapy. Interestingly, that study, although it was right at the end of recruitment, was actually stopped by DMC or the Data Monitoring Committee because they noticed that there was an increased risk of anastomotic leak in the group who was randomized to bevacizumab. But those were mainly in the esophagus and the junction adenocarcinoma, not those who have to undergo gastrectomy. Yeah. So it looks like those who need to do esophageal were compromised by having bevacizumab. So I think it's interesting, here we are, we've got two large phase 3 studies with bevacizumab that did not seem to provide any benefit, but the two studies with ramucirumab seems to provide benefits. And whether whether people truly believe there really is a difference in mechanism of action, one targeting the receptor, the other one targeting the ligand, actually makes that difference in gastric cancer. We already heard that, different disease, same targets can be different effects, and same targets, different compound can be different effects.
And different parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
So wasn't there controversy? One of the reasons we thought Avogast was negative was because of the Asian population. But yet, with the ramucirumab studies, we saw something different. Tell us a little bit about anti-angiogenic use in Asia.
Yes. So for Rainbow study, we enrolled 140 patients in this study, and I already reported a subgroup analysis in Japanese subset. It clearly showed an improvement in response rate and progression-free survival, almost doubling. Overall survival hazard ratio was 0.87, so some trend of improvement, but the control arm is very good outcome, so it might be due to their difference in survival. But this was clearly different from the previous Avogast trial, which showed no trend of improvement in terms of response, PFS. I'm not sure what is the reason, difference of drug, time of treatment, and the combination.
Or patient selection, because the bevacizumab studies involved first-line and perioperative setting. if the patients make it to second line, and then you select for patients with low volume disease, no peritoneal carcinomatosis, no bleeding, normal albumin, et cetera, then you're selecting a very select patient population.
Yeah, and we've seen also the apatinib and regorafenib.
If they again, these are small molecule inhibitors targeting the receptor tyrosine kinase inside the cell, and regorafenib has other off-target effects on PDGF, FGFR, pathways that are parallel pathways that are potentially important to cancer cell growth. And once again, if you get to second and third line setting, you have you're obviously at a higher risk for toxicity and other morbidities, mortality, but you also have a disease that is a specific, a very particular of disease biology. So perhaps you're more dependent on VEGF for growth, or as your disease is progressing, your VEGF dependence is increasing. And so, in first line setting, and I always tell this to my patients, we won't know how you do until we start the chemotherapy. And so in first line trial, there's no way to predict if this particular patient and tumor will be chemotherapy refractory. And in that case, if they're chemotherapy refractory, adding VEGF inhibitor is not going to, make it or break their, response. There's no biomarker, and you're not enriching patients. And so I think that's why second line, it's hard. I wouldn't, it would be careful to compare second line and first line studies and efficacy of agents.
So we should wait for the result of rainfall.
Yes, the results of rainfall we
Exactly.
eagerly await.